7 Curious Citations from the Notes of an Anonymous Archivist. Art and Story by Mariella Villalobos. The following notes are recovered from A16701, Sociological Processing Archive following an unknown disruption in contact with Central Archives Management. All citations, notes, and documents have been organized chronologically by Archive AI Systems for auto-generated analysis report. Citation number 1. I was aware of a growing hostility as people became less friendly and began avoiding me. Children explained that a sakakara, or pishtako, was operating in the area and asked me openly if I was one. Sakakara means literally taker of faces, and I was told by my young informants that this being cuts off its victims' faces and cuts out the heart. G.O.W. Peter, An Amazonian Myth and Its History, Oxford University Press. Contextual note, quote is underlined. First documentation equals Father Cristobal de Molina in 1576, written in margin at an angle to the text. Spanish capirote, possibly the origin of the hood? Earliest mention I have been able to find of the eaters, scribbled in further down the page, possibly added at a later time. Issue with lighting in archive reported. Flickering. Service request submitted. Confirmed. Citation 2. Upon entering one of the apartments, the most appalling spectacle met their eyes. 7 slaves, more or less horribly mutilated, were seen suspended by the neck, with their limbs apparently stretched and torn from one extremity to the other. Language is powerless and inadequate to give a proper conception of the horror which a scene like this must have inspired. These slaves were the property of the demon, in the shape of a woman, who we mentioned in the beginning of this article. They had been confined by her for several months, in the situation from which they had thus providentially been rescued, and had been merely kept in existence to prolong their suffering, and to make them taste all that the most refined cruelty could inflict. But why dwell upon such aggravating and painful particulars? The Fire on Royal Street, New Orleans B., April 11th, 1834. Contextual note, emphasized words are circled in a different color, not original to the original newspaper clipping. Wanted, 50 Negroes. Any person having sick Negroes considered incurable by their respective physicians and wishing to dispose of them. The highest cash prize will be paid upon application. Stillman, T. Doctor. Advertisement in the Charleston Mercury, 1838. Contextual note, shape-shifting properties, camouflage predator, is written next to the text provided. Night doctors equals another possible hooded figure, uniform inspiration for other forms later on, is scribbled over top of the first note. Second service request filed. Report indicates issue with lighting. Persists despite previous site evaluation reporting NTF. No trouble found. Citation 3. Photograph. A black and white image of what appears to be a First Nations man wearing a dark coat, moccasins, and holding a chain on a ring. Standing next to him is a man who, judging from his hat and uniform, is a member of the Northwest Mounted Police. Cree cannibal executed at Fort Saskatchewan, 1879-1880. Photographer G.M. Dawson. Image from Library and Archives Canada. Photograph. Worn and grainy black and white frame of a table with a cloth over top. Clearly visible in the center are 3, 4 human skulls and several other bones, including tibia, femurs, and pelvises of various sizes, all stripped of flesh. Indian bones, victims of Cree cannibal, brought in as evidence by the Mounted Police, 1879. Photographer G.M. Dawson, from Library and Archives Canada. At first, Swift Runner became haunted by dreams. A Wendigo spirit called on him to consume the people around him. The spirit crept through his mind, gradually taking control. Finally, he was Wendigo, and Swift Runner no longer. Then, the Wendigo killed and ate Swift Runner's wife. Richard, Bruce. Wendigo, published in Old West. Contextual note, the article clipping pinned below appears to be from the same note entry, though from a different incident source. The reason that an axe was used was that there is a belief amongst the Indians that a bullet will not pierce a Wendigo or man-eater. The body was burned, and large trees felled over the grave to prevent the possibility of a reappearance of the Wendigo, Some days after the death of the man, the people of the settlement were terror-stricken, believing that he might reappear and destroy them. His murder is justified on the ground that unless he was killed, he would have killed others. And that is the custom of the country. A Trout Lake Tragedy, the Brandon Mail, April 30th, 1896, page 3. Contextual note, single-word notes scribbled around archival material. Hunger, eaters, corruption, following contact with imperial authority. Conclusion equals the same beings as found in other reports. Trouble sleeping, strange figures in my dreams. Written in interior margin, redacted from record as subjective opinion, not relevant to archival report. Image recording documentation of archive submitted with third service request for lighting repair. Hissing and indistinct echo audible on recording. No mic installation on site. Citation number 4. The leopard man took the boy into the forest, where he and his group decapitated the child, placed his head 50 meters away, and mutilated the corpse. Mutilation was common, an example of which is seen in an article published in 11 Ursurations Congolaises. It contains an image of a man named Mopira, who died on January 13, 1932. In the photos, Mopira suffered scratches across his chest and his neck, and was missing an arm. Sayuri, Jeremy, putting a paw on power, Anioto leopard men of the eastern uplands, Belgian Congo, 1911 to 1936. Ufamu, Michigan, U.S. Contextual note. Becoming convinced that the eaters exist and are not a metaphor or superstition, but actual predatory creatures that disguise themselves as humans to prey on the weak and vulnerable under the guise of darkness, authority, or uniforms that hide their inhuman features. Analyzing all previous sources in light of this hypothesis, noted next to the above citation. Footsteps in the corridor keep distracting me from my work. I can't seem to catch them on surveillance recording. Written in notes section of the complaint filed for unauthorized access to archive. Personnel list requested. Granted. Station personnel, 1 archivist, 5 technicians, maintenance, engineering, communications. 2 AI, reporting, automation. Access to archive list requested. Granted. 1 archivist. Access. Badge required. No other instances of entry detected. Citation number 5. At the beginning of the Duvalier regime, the paramilitary force was simply known as the Cogulards, or Hooded Men. However, they were locally known simply as the Totem Makute, or Duvalier's boogeymen. They quickly became a feared group because their tactics included violence, extortion, torture, rape, and murder. Galvin, Javier A., Latin American dictators of the 20th century. The lives and regimes of the 15 rulers, McFarland. Contextual note. Hooded men, circled, with violence, anonymity, possible to feed without consequences, equal the eaters in the 20th century. New consideration. Do they still exist? Further study required. Noted next to the quote, page appears to have been unevenly torn from the original source. Shadows are now moving on their own. Is written and scratched out. Auto-redacted. Irrelevant to archival analysis. Request for psychological evaluation initiated. Status, pending, not completed. Citation 6. These rumors and stories are at least suggestive. The stories took the form that children were being abducted in cars, often black Volgas, and their organs taken for spare part surgery for rich foreigners. Bennett, Gillian. Bodies. Sex, Violence, Disease, and Death in Contemporary Legend. University Press of Mississippi. Contextual note. Conclusion. They exist, and my work may have granted them entry into the present. Analysis appears to show they can find their prey through the realm of ideas and dreams before stepping into physical space. What have I done? I dream of teeth under hoods, eyes empty, and a hunger big enough to eat the world. Auto-redacted. Temperature fluctuations detected. Adjusted. Malfunction auto-reported. Lighting circuit offline. Manual override detected. Citation 7. A hooded man traced the perimeter of the stands. No one saw his face. He saw everyone's. That look fired bullets. The hooded man walked, stopped, and pointed them out with his finger. the men marked by him, marched to be tortured or went on to die. Galiano Eduardo, El Encampachado, Eti Cadiaria, 1977, republished 2002. Contextual note: haven't slept in days, trying to keep them out. Tried to scatter my notes, no one must find them. Fear I've failed. They're here! Emergency locks engaged, manual override detected, camera circuit offline. AI auto reboot, systems online, damage report auto-generated. Latching mechanisms on doors to archive space malfunctioning. Force damage detected, metal buckled. Trace organic liquid detected on handles, walls, and doors. Analysis pending. Footsteps leading to housing block from archive show trace organic liquid. Analysis pending. Report conclusion. Results incomplete. Personnel status. Archivist status, missing 1. Technician status, missing 5. AI status, online, reboot complete. New archivist request auto-generated. Confirmed. Request granted.